Hi, this is Paul, and some of you in this little corner know Kara, and so she's in for a randos conversation. So, Kara, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm Ukrainian living in Poland and for 20 years already. That's how long it is.
So you're not a refugee.
I am not a refugee. Like my family is in Ukraine. My mom, my brother, like my grandma, my sister. I got her out of there in summer, so she's staying at my other place. And yeah, I reached out to Paul because I wanted to change something. Like that helplessness with this situation is a little bit overwhelming. And I reached out to several people. And Paul is one of those who agreed to talk to me. Yeah.
Well,
Which is
let's
like
start.
I'm really grateful.
Let's start. So you grew up in the Ukraine,
Yes.
and what was your family life like growing up?
Well, mom, dad, grandma, granddad, a lot of friends. Everything is like really chill until Soviet Union broke down. So
Oh,
I'm a kid of in the time when Soviet Union was still pretty much a thing,
okay.
and we had really nice path in front of us. We would become pioneers as soon as I would get out of kindergarten and deserve to be a pioneer. It's like Boy Scouts, just like with the different color. And everything was predetermined, let's say. I grew up in the South, so a lot of seaside, a lot of tourists from all over Soviet Union. So I met people from different countries. I mean, in the same kind of block. Um, I have really good memories from that time. And then, not to sound like Soviet agent, just like for children, everything is beautiful somehow.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. Well, did your family go to church?
okay, that's an interesting thing because I'm from the mixed family. It was half Muslim family, half Christian family.
That is very
It,
interesting.
it's my dad is Estonian, my mom is half Tatar. I mean, she's full
Wow.
on Tatar, but she tells she's half Tatar. But like her parents both Muslim, because Soviet Union is huge, and it had people from different countries. Like I was born in one country of Soviet Union, my sister was born in a different country, and then we all were sent to Ukraine when I was 2 years old. So I grew up in Ukraine, but I wasn't born there as well. It's a long story, but basically we had this understanding that I'm a foreigner in Ukraine as well. Mm.
So
I grew up,
you were a foreigner in Ukraine, and now you're double foreigner in Poland.
yeah,
So you've
I'm a
always been a
foreigner all my
foreigner.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're from a family that half comes from Christian and half comes from
North.
Muslim.
Oh yeah.
So
Also north and south.
you've got a lot of cosmopolitan in you. And the first thing out of you, see, I pay attention when I ask questions like this because the questions are intentionally quite open-ended. And the thing that you choose to say, says something. And, it's the childhood, it's the stability of the pre-collapse of the Soviet Union, the seaside, the nuclear family all around. That says a lot. And so not only are you from different places and are your parents from different places, but there's a sense of paradise lost in your story already.
Well, yeah, it was pretty small when everything collapsed, and it to me was, oh, that guy Lenin is a bad guy now, right? Oh, all those coins are collected, they're worthless now. Oh, I was looking forward to be a pioneer. Like, is there a replacement pioneer or something? Can I be somebody else? And then nothing. Yeah, we had everything new.
Well, tell me more. What do you mean we had everything new? What do you mean? Oh, you mean when the transition happened?
Yeah, transition was very sudden. Like all the books were immediately exchanged. There was one set of books, it was taken away, and we received a different set of books.
Wow.
Like completely different.
Wow.
History was changed.
Wow.
Uh,
That's
Topics in
an incredible thing for a mass of people to go through a transition like that. What does that do to you? I mean, you were young, so I mean, in some ways, I mean, the cake wasn't baked, you weren't formed yet, so suddenly there's this whoosh and things are up and ended. Were you still living in the same place? Did
Yeah.
parents lose jobs? I mean, what happened? Is it just kind of many things stayed the same and these other things just sort of flipped?
Well, I can tell from child perspective.
Right.
A lot of parents of children in my class, or like my peers, they lost jobs, and general depression started because there is suddenly entire nation under stress when before they had jobs. We had a big undertaking, which was swimming pool. They dug up a huge hole. And then after Soviet Union collapsed, that hole just stayed a hole until they covered it up 15 years later.
Wow.
It never was built. And later I found out that it was in a lot of schools in Ukraine.
There's a big swimming
Yeah.
pool project that someone put through, and then the government changed, and then the whole big swimming pool project stopped.
Yeah. Well,
So you didn't,
it,
so you've got Muslim and Christian. How did your parents, was religion a factor in your household, or was it sort of Soviet atheism, or was it just kind of these aren't things we ever talked about or paid attention to?
well, they both agreed that I will be the child that goes baptized in the
Okay.
Orthodox Church. So I
Okay.
was the only child who got baptized right away.
How many siblings do you have?
I have two siblings. I have a sister and a brother.
Okay. But you're the only one baptized.
I was the only one baptized. My sister was baptized when she was 12
Okay.
afterwards.
Okay. So you're baptized Orthodox.
Yes, I am baptized Orthodox.
Did your family go to church regularly or not?
No, for holidays, mainly for Easter, to kind of because church was in a different village. It was not in the same village that where I grew up.
Okay.
And to go to church, we would have to drive. But my mom was always like, no, I like one specific church in the middle of town. And so we would go through this massive it was an undertaking, 1 hour by car to go to that one church in the town.
Do you have memories of
It's
church? What you thought of it when you were a little girl?
Yes, I remember I've seen how my sister got baptized, how my mom got baptized when she was 33, because my mom was the Muslim one.
Right.
She changed, she baptized herself. I mean, she decided to baptize.
Yeah.
I know that there is this one prayer that I learned, Holy Father. I also read it in live streams before in the past, in Russian. And that prayer I kept reading like since I was a kid every day. Like it, I think it's kind of OCD by now. Like I feel unsafe if I don't read it.
Okay. Okay. So how old were you when the change happened in terms of the government and the breakup of the Soviet Union?
I was 6.
Okay, so you were very
Oh,
young.
yeah.
And so what was your education system like between 6 and 12?
Well, I first of all had to learn Ukrainian language
Oh,
because it was not spoken in the south of Ukraine. There where I come from, it was massively Russian population, Russian
in
speaking population.
oh, that's interesting. So you grew up speaking Russian and then you had to learn Ukrainian as you really started getting into school.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. What was that
I
like
mean,
for you?
beautiful. It's such a beautiful language. I was a singer, so like since I was 4, I got noticed and always put on a chair and on a spot and to perform. So singing in Ukrainian was amazing.
Mhm.
It's like that language sings itself somehow. It's a
Mhm.
beautiful language.
Wow. Wow. So, okay. So, um, you're growing up, you're learning Ukrainian, you're going to school. What's the education system like in terms of, I mean, in America, there's sort of grade school, which is kindergarten through 8th grade, really. Junior high is 6th to 8th grade, and then high school. What's the education system? What was the education system like for you?
Well, it's kindergarten until you're 6. Then
Okay.
when you're 6, you go to the first grade, and then
Okay.
you go until 11th grade.
Okay.
Right now, I think it's 12th grade.
Okay.
It's always the same school.
Okay. Oh, it's always the same school all the way through.
All the way through. So people who are like teenagers, they go to the same school with the 6-year-olds.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
they meet in
interesting.
cafeteria.
Okay. So as a teenager, what were you interested in?
Music,
Music. Okay.
yeah, and math, and a lot of math and music. It was my big passion.
Okay. Okay. And then do you graduate school? Did you graduate at 11th or 12th grade?
Well, I left the village school from the 8th grade, and
Okay.
then I was sent to private school in the city, from the
Oh,
village to the city.
were
So
you living at home or commuting, or did you go and live with someone else?
no, we were living. It was like boarding school.
Oh, what was that
Yes.
like?
Well, a lot of kids, a lot of teenagers, and like let's say 200 teenagers, and only 4 ladies watching over them.
All
The
girls?
only No, the only safety measure is boys and girls. They're in separate living facilities, but windows facing each other. And we would meet if we would go out and sit with the monument. So there would be all of those like the building for boys, the building for girls, and in the middle was the monument. And around the monument were the benches. So if we want to meet and talk to each other, play truth or dare, which was a big deal. It's like our game. So we would meet in the thing.
Wow.
Yeah, I was the rule breaker. I would meet with the locals instead of instead of talking to the people from the university, not university, how to go, boarding school. I would sneak local kids in and tell them to pretend to be from from the place, and I would hang out with them instead and listen to their stories.
Why did your parents send you to private school?
Me and my sister, my mom had my brother, and it's from a different marriage,
Oh, okay.
and so me and my sister were in the way a little bit.
Okay.
and like she was starting her family, so she sent me and my sister away, and I was like doing the best of it, so I had a lot of fun. I have great memories from there.
Good, good, good. So what happened after that school? Did you go to college? Did you leave? So you're in the big city and you finish up with education and then what? What was that transition like?
Well, I stayed for summer afterwards, like always worked as a waitress because I did not want to go home. And there was the story where I lived in a church, actually. So that big church to which I was always liked to go from the village, it was not far away. So I started going there just because like I needed somebody to talk to, somehow other than my peers, like somebody adult, like guidance. I mean, I talked to all the cleaning ladies, like we all were friends, but the cleaning ladies were telling scary stories to me. And then I needed, like they were telling me all the things that might happen to a girl.
Oh, okay.
It was terrifying.
They meant
So,
well. They wanted to scare you into a safety zone. So
yeah, well, they got me a little bit paranoid, so I started going to church. And this is like it's my favorite story. It's the first time as a teenager I go into church on Sunday, and like I'm quietly waiting until the service is over, and then I see the confession booth, and there's like on one side the confession booth with a massive queue, and on the other side is a confession booth, and there is definitely somebody in taking confessions, but nobody is queuing up to that one. I was like, oh my god, the underdog, my type of priest. so so like he will understand me what's like to be an underdog. So I'm coming in, and I don't know who is in there, and I'm seeing that almost a boy. It was like a tall priest with long blonde hair and blue eyes, and I'm looking at him. Oh my god, it's like a teenage, like somebody like me. It's like, are you a priest? And he's like, yes. I was like, how old are you? And he's like, I'm 22. And he's like also noble about it. And I start talking to him, and he turned out to be really intelligent conversation partner. So we talked for a while. We had like this philosophical discussion about indoctrination since childhood. And he said, you were indoctrinated in some other way of thinking, but now because your soul is Christian, when you have hard times, you can hear. The conversation was so good that he said, can you come after the service to my place? I live behind the church. I was like, that's really weird. I'm in. So I'm like not listening to all the cleaning ladies from the place I lived in. So I'm coming in, and he greets me with a tea. It was a tiny kind of almost shed sort of house. It's like 2 rooms basically, but like made from soil, like really poor. And he said, my wife is currently in Kiev. She will be back on Wednesday. She would love to meet you. I was like, that gets even weirder. I totally would want to meet his wife. so so he starts talking to me, and I'm completely like, I cannot almost hear it. I just see him talking because like everything seems to me amazing. I was just really depressed and alone, and I needed guidance and an adult. And instead I find somebody who seems to be my peer. And he talks and talks, and he explains how he just arrived to Kherson from Kiev with his wife. They just like, they're new in town, they don't have friends, they didn't make their names, so they were new people. And I meet his wife on Wednesday. I come after school, let's say, run away from my classes, And she comes and I see her, and she's like this tiny Jewish girl with like massive afro. And she has one tooth missing and she looks completely insane. And she's like, "Hi, I'm so happy to see you." And she runs at me and she gives me a massive hug. By that point, I completely forgot about her husband. I was just overtaken by her heart, and we became good friends. So that
Oh,
was the story how I ended up living in church.
that's wonderful. That's a wonderful story. So you finish school, and what do you do?
Well, I finished school and I wanted to get into the university,
Mhm.
and there were several options. But for that, I needed to spend a summer in the city
Okay.
to try to get into different universities. And
Okay.
I failed because I could not afford, like, besides really good grades, you also have to have, they call it a roof. Back in those days, you had to have a patron who would
Yep.
like help you to get into the university, and I did not have that. So I
Mm.
failed, and I stayed in summer working as a waitress, and living in church. And maybe in August, somebody from the people in the church told me, well, you know, there is, you can try in Warsaw. If you have good grades and you speak like a little bit of English, if you're prone to learning, just gather up money and go to Warsaw and get in the university there. And like that's how my adventure started. Basically, I got into Warsaw University. I did not need a patron. My brain was enough, apparently.
Mhm.
I needed money for the ticket, and I stayed with acquaintances.
Was it fairly easy to go from Ukraine to Poland? I mean, did you have did you need a visa, or could you just go and do it, or?
Well, in those years, I did not really need a visa yet because Warsaw was not yet in the European Union. It got into European Union in 2003. And when I was trying was like 2002. So I still could go without a visa until 3 months. Like I could cross the border just having a Ukrainian passport. And um, I don't know if it was easy when you're young, and I was used to life kind of turning upside down since early age, uh, adapted to it, let's say. Everything is an adventure, and I was really motivated as well to escape the reality. So mm,
So did you learn English? Had you been pretty good at languages, and so you learned English? So
and
so that
Polish.
okay, and Polish. So Russian, grew up in Russian, learned Ukrainian for school, English along the way, Polish, moved to Warsaw. And what did you study when you got to Warsaw?
Well, it was international relationships. It was one which had like least amount of grades needed to get
Okay,
into.
okay.
But I a year later after that, I anyway got into Ukrainian school and finished economics and in specializing in bankruptcy and crisis solving
Okay,
in the Ukrainian university.
okay, okay. So you're able to get into university, and
Yeah.
when did you meet your husband?
Oh, I met my husband after, well, I met him in 2008.
Okay.
Actually, I was already working, and like I made it my goal to be independent, to have an apartment, to be all of that. So I achieved that goal. I finished my university. I got myself an apartment. I was just paying off the rest of the credit. I made a career. So I worked in a HR consulting company, which is like I was responsible for Ukrainian market. It's
Okay.
super cool. I met him in 2008. He was a student in SGH. It's a very famous university in Poland.
Okay. Is he Polish? Oh,
No,
he's
he was a
Ukrainian?
foreigner. No, he's Belarusian. He's Belarusian, but his mom is Polish.
You are just this this mosaic of all these nationalities.
Yeah, I mean, it is good and it is bad in a sense. Like, I don't have a strong sense of identity. It's hard to be indoctrinated into one thing because I had so many experiences with different cultures and even religions and people. But it is hard to find grounding. So I always feel like I'm floating in the wind all the time.
Now you
But
stayed with church, you met the young priest, you met his wife. Did church stick with you, or is church not something that you've done much with in your adult life?
well, religion sticks with me.
Okay.
Church, I'm guilty of going to church once a month, but I go to different churches. Like, I go to Catholic church, sometimes I go to Orthodox church. It all depends on my friends who will take me. Like, I need a company to go to the church. I'm very clingy to people. Let's say I always need to make friends. And like, even that experience in the church and that thing, how I came to Warsaw, I always was making friends and relying on them. So friendship was a big deal for me. Yeah, like last time I was in church, it was with my friend Daria, who is kind of a celebrity in Poland. So she goes to Africa, saves people. She was on a TED talk. Like, she's a big deal. And she takes me to a Dominican church here in Warsaw to sing. So I was singing with them. There are some videos. It's a beautiful church.
Wow.
Like, yeah.
That's very interesting. So eventually married. You have a son. Do you have more than one child or just a son?
I have two children, a son and a daughter.
A
My
son and a
daughter is
daughter.
older and
Okay.
the son is younger.
Okay. And what's it like being a mom?
Well, you stop being important. Like you absolutely like a nobody compared to your children. Like, I was risking my life so many times before I was a mom. I bungee jumped, I scuba dived, I was daring myself to do all these insane things in real life. And when I became a mom, I was afraid to go over a bridge because, like, I looked down and I was like, oh my God, what if something happens to me? What will be with my kids? Yeah. Like, that definitely puts you in your in your place.
It's true. It's true. There's something you are, as a mom, you are worth. As a mom, you have a value that you didn't have before you had the children.
Yeah.
And no, that's so you've found your way to this now. I would have imagined that someone born before the collapse of the Soviet Union, who had to learn Ukrainian, then to go through school, who had a very interesting adventure with a young priest and his wife, who had to go to Warsaw to get into college, but then finished up her degree in Ukraine, whose husband is again from this whole Eastern European conglomerate, one of the interesting things for me over the last, even just the last few months, I was listening to the Rest is History podcast on Poland. I've had a couple of conversations with Poles. I've met a few Poles along the way. They've been on the channel. One of the things that for myself growing up in the United States during the Cold War, everything behind the Iron Curtain was just sort of terra incognito. You didn't know what that whole land was. And now with, the Iron Curtain came down, it's been down for a little while, and the European Union, and now the Ukrainian war, it's like for a lot of Americans, there's sort of this new opening to a whole different world and a whole different history. And so here I am talking to you today. How did this happen? I didn't set up, decide I'm going to go find people from Poland and Ukraine to talk to. I mean, you found your way into this little corner of the internet. And how did that happen?
Well, it was a pattern with me as always. I looked for friends, and so 2 years ago, I met friends online because it was the new place I had to explore because of COVID. And so I would not, my IRL friends, they prefer to meet me in secret, like during COVID than online. And I expanded here, and I met several people who were amazing. So I started streaming on Twitch poetry. I learned how to express myself in English better, and I started writing poetry in English.
No, hang on a second. Twitch poetry. So I don't know hardly anything about Twitch. All I know about Twitch is that there's a whole bunch of gamers on Twitch. People watch each other's play games. Now you're telling me there's a poetry section of Twitch. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, we made it with with a dude Cordell. We were sitting, just the two of us, reading poetry to each other.
Wow.
And on Twitch. And like, I don't want to name drop. Some famous person was watching us, and then he asked me to join Discord, so I joined his Discord, and so I started meeting a bunch of people on Discord, and I started a podcast as well, and I had Mercury in there. I met Grim in there. I met Ironroot, Manuel, Mark, like all this little corner of the internet. They started inviting me to their places. I stopped doing things on Twitch. And I actually basically for a year stopped doing anything for YouTube. But when the war started, actually Manuel and Grim both encouraged me to instead of like boiling in negativity, to put things out there. So I started my line by line, because mom forbade me to cry about Ukraine too much. She said like, no, you don't spread negativity. You only put positivity and humanity into the world. Well, she was scared.
Well, talk to me about line by line a little bit. So I'll put the link to your channel below. But so you were into music, and you got into poetry, and then somehow you wound up, with Mercury. I haven't seen Mercury for a while, but those of you who are real OG This Little Corner folks will remember Mercury, and the Grim was first on the Sorting Yourself Out channel. The Sorting Yourself Out channel was a very interesting channel. It was a guy who decided he was going to apply he was going to be a Jordan Peterson fundamentalist. And so he YouTubed himself applying Jordan Peterson fundamentally. But then there were some aspects of his life where he was sort of fudging, and that got exposed, and then the channel got handed down. Mercury had it. Grim was on there when I first met Grim. So there's a, there's always a lot of little movement on the internet and social media. So that's the crew you got connected with. And then what was the idea behind Line by Line?
The idea was, so I'm trying, instead of focusing on big ideas and politics and all of that, zoom into people and like specific people. So basically to show how the person next to me sees the music, understands it, like what stands out, like what did you notice in that particular poetry that you just heard, and like why. And it's like showing a little bit of soul. And because people are very, very different, I noticed that, like, even though they're generalized under category guys or category women or like this or that group or nation, everybody is different. And that's the idea behind it. A person from the same city, background, age can understand the same song way differently. And that's the idea for me. People are important, not the knowledge behind what was the reasoning for the author to do it. No, what you as a listener understand listening to Sound of Silence, let's say. Sound of Silence means for so many people different things.
That's true. That's true. So you get, and you have a fair amount of randos on there. You don't necessarily get people of high status, but you come and you talk. Well, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Correct me. Tell me about the big names on your channel.
Oh, no, not the big name. It's like they're all high status for me. Actually,
That's beautiful.
like my favorite people, they are the people who are not present on YouTube. Like Agent 69. He did not have a YouTube. Like he started a YouTube just to make a kind of tribute to Line by Line, which was really beautiful, 15 minutes for which I got copy striked and everything. But it's so beautiful that I will keep it, even though like my channel got flagged a little bit. But it's like he had a hard story. He works as a janitor. Like he's a musician as well, but he's trying. He has like really health issues and problems to understand and fears. And I talked, like he makes me see in music new sides. It's amazing. And those are like the most interesting people for me to talk to. A person with most amount of subscriber on YouTube, like he has like 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. When he comes on Line by Line, it actually sounds like he's giving me a lecture. It doesn't sound like a conversation. And I was like, just, okay, I see what it is. Like, I'm trying to get him from the high horse to us talking. And yeah, I like people who are just like real in a sense, like they're not, in their own story too much.
Now, you've mentioned your mom has sort of made different appearances in this conversation. Obviously, she grew up Muslim, decided to become baptized Orthodox. I mean, almost sounded like sent you to school when she had her son, but it quite clearly you continue to have an important relationship with your mom. You listen to your mom, and it sounds like you respect your mom.
Oh yeah, like she is a big matriarch for me. I will. It's the roots, in a sense. If I will respect my roots, it makes my core stronger. if I will find things to disrespect about my roots, and that if I will focus on that, it will make me weaker. That's what my grandma taught me, who is like awesome. Yeah.
You got a lot of good lines in there. I take notes during these conversations often. It helps me kind of remember. If we talk again, I can go back over my notes. It also helps me try to figure out a title for these conversations, which is always sort of a challenge, because I often try to figure out a title that will invite people to listen, because I know the culture of the internet. And, you know, if I'm having a conversation with Jordan Peterson or Jonathan Peugeot or John Vervaeke, everybody will watch because it's Peterson, Peugeot, or Vervaeke. But if I have a conversation with a rando, people just, you know, they just swipe on. But it's in my opinion, it's these conversations, sort of what you said with respect to line by line. It's these conversations with very real people that that actually I think we can see a lot about the world. And not to say take anything away from Peterson or Vervaeke or Peugeot, but we've heard a lot from them, and so it's good to hear from others. Now so when you reached out to me, you wanted to talk about the war. And obviously, I mean, I was thinking about this last night. I mean, wars are in some ways man-made natural disasters. They impact everyone. And obviously, you grew up in an area where there are a lot of Russians, so you grew up speaking Russian. But then, you know, you learned Ukrainian. That's the way you identified yourself first. You're Ukrainian, you have a Ukrainian passport. You're living in Poland. You've been living in Poland for 20 years. And then, of course, the war starts. Was your mother and you had your mother and your family living in Ukraine when the war started?
Oh, so 22nd of February, Russia announced independence of Donetsk and Luhansk. And my friend, who is Russian, she calls me and she says, "Get your family out of Ukraine, please." And I was like, "Why? What?" And she's like, "Okay, things are brewing." I kind of warned my mom. So the first thing I did, I sent her money because, like, okay, I don't know what is brewing, but like money you will need. And on the 24th of February, heavy bombing started everywhere, especially the south was just like immediately occupied right away.
Yeah.
And what happened was, when the south got occupied, all the roads from Ukraine were cut. So no food, no help, nothing would come through. And people were, let's say, isolated right away. And my grandma's husband, her second husband, he died in the first week of war from a heart attack because ambulance weren't coming.
Oh my.
So she had to bury him quietly under all the shooting. And then she was hiding in a cellar for a month. So the war is terrible. Like I could not do anything to help. Like there is nothing I could have done, like literally. So I decided the first thing I should do is to read news as much as possible to be in their mindset. And like that did not turn out really well. I got very much poisoned. And then I had to unwind that type of thinking. It happened. I survived. So all that ordeal, that roller coaster, and then I managed to get my sister out, all of those stories were nothing compared to one morning. Actually, when I reached out to you, like I asked you, like, okay, Paul, are you serious about doing a conversation? Because I'm really in a bad state. I meant it because the bomb fell next to my mom and blew out her windows. Like my grandmother's house was bombed. It's like we evacuated grandma. It was somehow fine, but when my mom and my grandma and the second house was also bombed, like all the houses, like everything in my village started being destroyed. I actually thought I will never talk to them again. I was convinced that the war is taking my family away. So anyway, I started like doing things like I need to go out there and talk about it, because that's the only thing I was able to find as a solution to help the situation. And dehumanization of others. So I decided I will show that others are also people. So I asked my friend who always refused to be on camera, she's Russian, to come in and actually show herself and tell that, like, okay, we are Ukrainian and the Russian, the friendship is possible. So I did that video in order to give a little bit of positive way out, other than enemy against enemy and there is no other solution. There is a solution. It's to see people in others, not that machine that comes to kill you. No, there are people behind the machine on every side. And you agreed to talk to me, which I'm really grateful. And then another big channel called Russia, from inside Russia. It's like 200,000 subscribers, very intimidating. Each video gets 50,000 views right away, daily streams, like. And that channel noticed me, and they also reached out, like, and they're like, let's collaborate. And I'm like, I have nothing. There is nothing I can say. Like, I can tell my story, but I don't have a solution.
Yeah.
So I'm coming out in hope that people will maybe advise me, or you, Paul, anyone who watches, because I have no solution for how to heal that rift.
No.
I really want the war to stop.
Yeah.
But there is good news. My mom managed to evacuate to the city with grandma and all the cats, because that was the reason she did not want to leave, because she was saving animals. Like, I could not hate the animals, but it was really, really bizarre. I was like, Mom, get out of there. And she's like, everybody got out and left so many animals. And that's how hell looks like. It's just like constant shooting and dogs howling. You think they would be quiet, but they're howling at the shootings. Yeah, so a week ago they escaped, and she got 8 cats with her, and they are in a safe place. And she sent me video with all the cats, and all the cats are beautiful. They're like different sizes. And then she adopted 2 more cats, which was amazing. Yeah, so she has she has a grandma and cats, and my stepfather. So
Well,
my
I am glad she got out with grandma and all the cats. That's good news. That's good news.
And she told me, like, which was amazing, she has windows now, and she really appreciates having windows.
Yeah. 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 It's amazing when catastrophe befalls, what things that you took for granted before suddenly you see the value of. So your grandma and your mom are safe with the cats. Are they still in Ukraine, or are they in Poland?
Oh, no, they're in Kherson. So very much under bombing still, but like they are safe in the meaning. They're not in the village. The village at the south, it was like Russian forces were 8 kilometers from them, and all Ukrainian forces were in the village.
Oh boy.
Shooting. And
Yeah.
like they
Yeah,
were
yeah.
basically in the middle of crossfire.
They're in the battlefield.
And there is like those machines called Grad that can shoot from super far away. and like there are no windows in the entire village left.
Yeah.
Like, I'm already like, my school is bombed there.
Yeah.
So, you know, helplessness is a bad thing, and I honestly, like, the help that I need is advice, nothing more. I would like to know, what can I say when I go, when I reach out and when I talk further. People were like, figure out your message. Like, well, that's my message. That's not strong enough.
Well,
Like,
there's I think in many ways the best you can do is tell the truth. And I you know, I don't I'm not a political character. I'm by no means an expert on any of this, and so I don't really have any advice to give you besides tell the truth. And you know, there's wars come. They always have. And I don't believe they're going to stop until this world's present story is wrapped up. And I don't know much about, like I said earlier, I don't know much about that part of the world. And when I've read I enjoy reading history, and I've read a lot of war history. This summer I read through a large trilogy on the Japanese side of the Second World War. There's just so much tragedy with war. You've got people making decisions that cause war, but you've also got these large forces that are moving through history, and it's not this war is not a tremendous surprise. Just look within your lifetime, all the changes that happened. You had that upheaval with the collapse of the Soviet Union. You had all of the turmoil economically, socially, borders that happened in the aftermath of that collapse. You've got, we don't even pay much attention to the reunification of Germany. The partition of Germany and its reunification. These are tremendously large things happening to a lot of people. European unification, Poland being part of the European Union, Poland and Romania being part of NATO, and now, Finland and Sweden. Ukraine is just right there on the frontier. And, I've listened to some things about the history of Ukraine, trying to learn a little bit of it, but it seems like one of these places that is just sort of in the middle. Poland, the same way. That whole area of Eastern Europe is just an avenue, and yet there's great farmland, there's resources, there's history that goes back a long, long ways to the Slavs and the Vikings, and up from Constantine. It's an area of the world with an astoundingly important nexus of history. And I don't know when, how, why this war will end. And I hope that your mother and your grandmother and the cats are safe. And then, I don't know, I listen and you say, well, they're not out of Ukraine. They're right there. And I'm thinking, get them further, get them out.
It's a painful subject. I tried. I did so many things. Like, I can't convince my mom. I'm very much obedient. Like, she's like, no, you cannot convince me. I'm happy that your sister is out.
It's that mom thing again.
Yeah, I cannot force my mom.
No, you can't.
Yeah,
You
I
can't.
understand her.
Yeah.
She knows better somehow.
Yeah.
Like she's like, I know better.
Yeah.
Uh,
Do you pray?
every day I read Holy Father.
Okay.
Like I keep reciting it. It's really important to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it had been going on since I was a child. Actually, precisely that I was reaching out to Father somehow because like it's Отче наш in Russian. It's really I really love it.
Hmm.
I know it. There is this thing. It's help, that message of help and appreciation that I was hoping. Christmas is right around the corner, and it's the thing that I wanted to say. Help locally. I reached out to you specifically because of your videos helping locally people.
Yeah.
Not that I'm respectful of all the big ideas,
Yeah.
but real life is spending time with people, helping people. I actually did like when Freddie was like born, Christ, the Christ is born. It was super cool. I like that. Did he write it or was he just rapping it?
I'm sure I don't know. It's hard to account for what comes out of Freddie's mouth.
Like,
which is why
I
I love doing stuff with Freddie.
this is those are the happy moments in life.
Yeah.
It's you. I have the best memories actually spending time in this innocence with people, just having fun.
Yeah.
And so before Christmas, I would love for Christmas to hear my mom and grandma fight. Like I could not wish for anything else. Like all I want for Christmas is to hear my mom and grandma fight with each other. It would be so amazing. It's my favorite thing. I would be crying from happiness if I would hear them insult each other a little bit. It would be so cool. And those things should be appreciated a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like, don't finance war. That's it. Like people, if you finance churches, finance people who help people.
Yeah.
Do not finance weapons. When I see like, give money for weapons, we will stop the war if you will give us more money for weapons.
Yeah.
I don't believe that's how things work.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would have worked before if things could have been solved with more weapons.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I don't have any advice. Because the truth is I don't know. I don't know. But I can pray. And I think you're right that we I mean do things locally. Love the people around you. And pray that the war stops. And yeah. I mean, wars are politics by other means. I mean, that's what they are. And this war very much is. But it would be nice if we would not use that means for politics and find other means for politics where we don't kill each other and shoot each other. And yeah, so I wish I had more advice for you. I wish I had an answer. I wish I could do something like that, but I don't have it. So,
well, it's nice that I'm able to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I cannot really talk about it on my channel because my mom watches my channel. I mean, not now. Now they have she has no internet right now, but she would completely be upset about me saying all of those things because I'm not spreading joy, and like sometimes we need to talk truth.
Well, joy is not happiness. And all I want for Christmas is to hear my mom and grandma fight. There's a lot of joy in that. There is. Mom managed to evacuate with grandma and all the cats. There's a lot of joy in that. I don't think you're disrespecting your mother. I think you are spreading joy, and joy can have an element of lament and sorrow in it as well, as long as there's sort of a deep hope that's part of it. And yeah, and so of course everybody knows I'm a Christian minister, and that's why, so this time of year in America, a hymn that we sing a lot is Joy to the World. Joy to the world, the Lord has come, let earth receive her King. And then the second stanza is, no more let sin and sorrow grow, or thorns. And war is a lot of thorns. And so we will pray that peace comes, and that joy will prevail. But we also pray for the safety of your mom and your grandma and the cats.
Thank you.
All right. Is that a good place to land the plane? Or you got something else you want to say?
No.
Okay.
It's a perfect place.
All right.